When spelunker Marcus Reed disappeared in the Appalachian foothills east of Nashville in March 2021, search and rescue teams discovered something that made them immediately halt their operation. Following Reed's GPS coordinates led them to a cave entrance that wasn't on any geological survey or official record maintained by the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. The cave entrance showed clear signs of recent human activity, yet no one in the local caving community had ever heard of it. Equipment tracks led into the darkness, but whoever had been there before had covered their presence so thoroughly that only trained investigators could detect the traces. Reed was never found, but his disappearance opened up a disturbing reality about Tennessee's underground landscape. Hidden beneath the familiar rolling hills and limestone plateaus are cave systems that remain completely unmapped, unexplored, and in some cases, deliberately concealed from public knowledge. You're watching Undiscovered America, and today we're venturing into Tennessee's hidden underground world, where vast cave networks stretch for miles beneath your feet, where entire ecosystems exist in permanent darkness, and where some of the most significant geological discoveries in American history might still be waiting in passages that no human has ever seen. Number 11, the Sequatchie Void. The Sequatchie Void is a massive underground chamber system in the Cumberland Plateau that was discovered during a highway construction in 1987. But exploration was immediately suspended when engineers detected structural instabilities that suggested the cave system extends far deeper than any known formation in Tennessee. Tennessee Department of Transportation crews were blasting through limestone for Interstate 24 expansion when they accidentally breached the ceiling of what appeared to be a natural, cathedral-sized chamber. Initial surveys using ground-penetrating radar revealed that the single chamber they had discovered was actually part of a network that extended for at least 12 miles in multiple directions. What made the discovery particularly intriguing was the presence of air currents that suggested the cave system connected to the surface through openings that had never been found. The airflow patterns indicated chambers large enough to create their own weather systems, with temperature differentials that could only exist in spaces the size of aircraft hangars. When the state brought in professional cavers to conduct preliminary exploration, they made discoveries that raised more questions than they answered. The accessible portions of the cave contained formations that didn't match typical Tennessee limestone caves, including crystalline structures that appeared to have been formed by mineral-rich water sources that no longer existed. Today, the Sequatchie Void remains sealed behind concrete barriers installed during the interstate construction, officially due to ongoing geological assessment. But seismic monitoring equipment installed throughout the area continues to detect regular underground activity that suggests the cave system remains geologically active in ways that conventional limestone caves typically aren't. Number 10, Bell Witch Cave Extension. The famous Bell Witch Cave in Adams County is a popular tourist attraction, but what visitors don't know is that the publicly accessible cave represents less than 5% of a massive underground complex that extends beneath 3 counties and has never been fully explored. The Bell Witch Cave has been known since the early 1800s and is famous for its connection to Tennessee folklore, but modern geological surveys have revealed that the tourist cave is merely the entrance to a network that rivals Mammoth Cave in Kentucky for size and complexity. In 1994, cavers following an airflow discovered passages that led away from the main cave system into previously unknown territory. These passages descended much deeper than the limestone formations that create most Tennessee caves, suggesting they were formed by different geological processes than the familiar cave system. But exploration of the extended system has been repeatedly halted by unusual atmospheric conditions. Cavers report rapid temperature changes, electromagnetic interference that affects equipment, and air quality readings that indicate the presence of gases that don't typically occur in natural cave formations. What makes the Bell Witch Cave extension particularly mysterious is evidence of previous human activity in areas that should have been inaccessible. Cave formations in the deep passages show tool marks that appear to be centuries old, and some chambers contain artifacts that don't match any known historical timeline for human habitation in Middle Tennessee. Local authorities restrict access to the extended cave system, officially due to preservation concerns, but the restrictions apply specifically to the deep passages rather than the familiar tourist areas, suggesting that whatever lies in the unexplored sections requires protection for reasons beyond simple conservation. Number 9. The Norris Dam Underground. When the Tennessee Valley Authority built Norris Dam in the 1930s, construction crews discovered a series of natural caves that were deliberately flooded rather than explored, creating an underwater cave system that remains completely inaccessible to conventional exploration. The TVA construction project was designed to provide flood control and hydroelectric power for the region. But during the dam construction process, workers encountered natural cave openings that presented engineering challenges the project managers decided to solve by simply flooding them. What makes the Norris Dam Underground unique among Tennessee cave systems is that it represents a snapshot of 1930s cave exploration frozen in time. When the reservoir filled, it preserved whatever existed in those caves exactly as it was when the water rose, creating an underwater archaeological site that has remained undisturbed for over 90 years. Modern sonar mapping of the reservoir has revealed the outlines of the flooded cave system, showing chambers and passages that extend far beyond what the original construction crews documented. The underwater caves appear to connect with dry cave systems on the surrounding hillsides, suggesting a network that was much more extensive than anyone realized. But the most intriguing aspect of the Norris Dam Underground is evidence that the caves were being used for purposes beyond simple exploration before they were flooded. Sonar imaging has detected what appear to be man-made structures within the flooded passages, suggesting that someone had established operations in the caves that were abandoned when the dam project began. Today, the underwater cave system remains off-limits to divers, officially because of the dangerous conditions created by the dam's water intake systems. But environmental monitoring equipment placed throughout the reservoir continues to detect unusual readings that suggest ongoing activity in the flooded caves. Number 8. Frozen Head Passage. Network. Frozen Head State Park contains one of Tennessee's most extensive unexplored cave networks, discovered during a biological survey in 2003 but immediately classified as a protected habitat after researchers found ecosystems that exist nowhere else in North America. The Frozen Head Passage Network was discovered when biologists studying endangered bat populations noticed air currents coming from rock formations that appeared to be solid limestone. Investigation revealed cave entrances hidden by centuries of vegetation growth, leading to a system that extends throughout the mountain and potentially connects to other cave networks in the Cumberland Mountains. Initial biological surveys revealed species that appear to have been isolated in the caves for thousands of years, developing unique characteristics that make them scientifically invaluable. But the research that led to the cave system's protection status has never been published, and access is restricted to a small number of researchers with federal security clearances. What makes the Frozen Head Passage Network particularly significant is evidence that it contains geological formations that don't exist anywhere else in Tennessee. Rock samples from the accessible portions of the cave show mineral compositions that suggest the caves were formed by processes that conventional geology can't easily explain. The most mysterious aspect of the cave network is the presence of man-made modifications that appear to predate any known human habitation in the area. Some passages show evidence of deliberate widening, and certain chambers contain stone structures that don't match any known Native American construction techniques. The Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation maintains that the caves remain closed for species protection, but the security measures around the area are more extensive than typical wildlife preservation requires, suggesting that biological conservation may not be the only reason for restricting access. Number 7. The Lost Creek Caverns. Lost Creek Caverns in White County was partially mapped in the 1970s, but exploration stopped abruptly when cavers discovered passages that led to areas containing equipment and infrastructure that suggested the caves were being used for classified government operations. Lost Creek had been known to local residents for decades, used primarily by recreational cavers exploring relatively shallow limestone formations. But in 1976, members of the National Speleological Society, following an unmapped passage, discovered areas of the cave that showed clear evidence of recent human activity, including electrical systems and ventilation equipment that had no apparent connection to the natural cave environment. The cavers reported their discovery to state authorities, expecting to learn about some unknown research project or infrastructure installation. Instead, they were told that the areas they had discovered were off-limits for national security reasons and that their detailed maps of the cave system would be classified. What makes the Lost Creek Caverns particularly intriguing is that the government activity appears to be ongoing rather than historical. Local residents report regular helicopter traffic in the area, and sensitive electromagnetic monitoring equipment detects signals emanating from beneath the ground that are inconsistent with natural geological processes. The most disturbing aspect of the Lost Creek situation is what happened to some of the original cavers who made the discovery. Several experienced long-term health problems that were consistent with exposure to unknown chemical or radioactive materials, but attempts to investigate their illnesses were blocked by federal agencies citing national security considerations. Today, the mapped portions of Lost Creek Caverns remain accessible to the public, but the areas discovered in 1976 are sealed behind barriers that are monitored by electronic surveillance systems, and the nature of whatever operations continue in the deep caves remains completely unknown. Number 6. Savage Gulf Underground. Savage Gulf State Natural Area contains a network of caves that extends far beyond the boundaries of the protected area, connecting to underground systems throughout the Cumberland Plateau, but mapping efforts have been repeatedly interrupted by discoveries that suggest the caves contain more than natural formation. The Savage Gulf region has been recognized for its geological significance since the early 1900s, but serious cave exploration didn't begin until the 1980s when cavers following underground streams discovered that the cave system was far more extensive than anyone had realized. Initial exploration revealed passages that extended for miles beyond the park boundaries, connecting to cave entrances on private land and potentially linking to other known cave systems throughout the region. But as cavers pushed deeper into the network, they began finding areas that showed evidence of human modification and use. The most significant discovery was a series of chambers that contained what appeared to be living quarters and workspaces that had been carved directly into the cave walls. These modifications were clearly old, but they didn't match any known historical use of caves in the area. And some of the tool marks suggested construction techniques that weren't consistent with known historical periods. What ultimately led to the restriction of deep cave exploration was the discovery of materials and equipment that suggested the caves had been used for industrial purposes. Chemical residues found in some chambers indicated processes that would have required sophisticated technology and raised questions about what had been manufactured or processed in the underground facilities. Today, the publicly accessible portions of Savage Gulf caves remain open for recreational caving, but the deep network that connects to the broader Cumberland Plateau system is restricted, officially for archaeological preservation. But the security measures suggest that preservation may not be the only concern. Number 5. Big South Fork Hidden System. The Big South Fork National River and Recreation Area contains what may be Tennessee's largest unexplored cave system. Discovered during a hydrological study in 1998, but immediately sealed after researchers detected atmospheric conditions that suggested the caves connected to underground facilities that were not supposed to exist. The Big South Fork region was known to contain numerous small caves, but the discovery of the major system occurred when researchers studying underground water flow noticed that rivers disappeared into limestone formations and didn't emerge where geological models predicted they should. Investigation revealed cave entrances that led to a network rivaling any known cave system in the southeast. But what made the discovery immediately problematic was air quality readings that indicated the caves were not naturally ventilated, but were instead connected to artificial ventilation systems that drew air from unknown sources. The research team also detected electromagnetic signals emanating from deep within the cave system that were consistent with radio communications and electronic equipment rather than natural geological processes. When they attempted to trace these signals, they discovered that the caves appeared to connect to surface installations that were not acknowledged by any government agency. The most disturbing discovery was evidence that the cave system had been used as a transportation network. Passages showed wear patterns consistent with regular vehicle traffic, and some chambers contained infrastructure that appeared designed for loading and unloading operations, suggesting that the caves had been used to move materials or equipment without surface detection. The National Park Service sealed the cave entrances in 1999, citing unstable geological conditions, but seismic monitoring equipment continues to detect regular underground activity that suggests the cave system remains in active use, despite official claims that it has been abandoned. Number 4. Cherokee National Forest Deep Caves. The Cherokee National Forest contains multiple cave systems that were discovered during mining surveys in the 1960s, but were immediately classified by the Department of Defense after geological teams detected mineral formations that were strategically important for military applications. The original cave discoveries occurred during surveys for potential mineral extraction in the national forest, but instead of finding conventional limestone caves, geological teams encountered formations that contained rare earth minerals, essential for advanced military technologies. What made these caves strategically significant was not just the presence of valuable minerals, but the fact that the underground formations provided ideal conditions for extraction and processing operations that could be conducted completely out of sight from satellite surveillance or aerial reconnaissance. The cave systems also proved to be naturally shielded from electromagnetic detection, making them ideal locations for activities that needed to remain hidden from foreign intelligence services. The combination of strategic resources and natural concealment made the caves too valuable for conventional public access. The most significant aspect of the Cherokee National Forest cave systems is that they appear to connect to similar formations across state lines, potentially creating a network of underground facilities that spans multiple states and provides secure transportation and communication capabilities for classified operations. Today, the areas containing these cave systems are designated as military training areas within the National Forest, officially used for special forces exercises, but the level of security and the permanence of the installations suggest that training may not be the primary purpose of the facilities. Number 3. Reelfoot Lake Underground Network. The Reelfoot Lake region contains a vast underground cave system that was created by the same seismic activity that formed the lake in 1811 to 1812. But exploration has been limited because the caves exist in a seismically active zone that makes them both dangerous and scientifically invaluable. Reelfoot Lake was formed during the New Madrid earthquakes, the most powerful seismic events in recorded American history. The same geological forces that created the lake also opened massive underground chambers and passages that provide unique insights into earthquake geology. But the ongoing seismic activity makes exploration extremely hazardous. The cave system appears to extend throughout the region affected by the New Madrid fault zone, potentially connecting Tennessee to similar formations in Missouri, Arkansas, and Kentucky. This network could provide unprecedented opportunities for earthquake research, but it also presents risks that have prevented comprehensive exploration. What makes the Reelfoot Lake caves particularly intriguing is evidence that the underground network affects the seismic behavior of the entire region. Changes in the cave system appear to correlate with earthquake activity, suggesting that understanding the caves could be crucial for predicting future seismic events. But exploration is complicated by the fact that the caves exist in an environment where geological conditions can change without warning. Passages that are stable one day can become impassable due to seismic shifts, and the risk of cavers becoming trapped underground during an earthquake makes any exploration extremely dangerous. Number 2. Great Smoky Mountains Hidden Chambers. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park contains cave systems that have been known since Cherokee settlement, but remain unexplored because they are considered sacred sites by Native American tribes and are protected under federal legislation that restricts access for cultural preservation reasons. The Cherokee people have maintained oral histories about caves in the Smoky Mountains for centuries, describing underground chambers that served important spiritual and practical purposes in their traditional culture. These caves were never mapped by European settlers because Cherokee guides deliberately avoided revealing their location. When the national park was established, agreements with Cherokee leadership included provisions protecting sacred sites from public access and scientific exploration. The caves covered by these agreements remain off-limits to researchers and cavers, preserving both their cultural significance and their natural state. Modern geological surveys using non-intrusive methods have revealed that these protected cave systems are far more extensive than anyone realized, potentially representing some of the largest unexplored cave networks in the eastern United States. What makes the Great Smoky Mountains caves particularly significant is that they may contain archaeological evidence that could revolutionize understanding of pre-Columbian life in the southeast. But the same cultural protections that preserve the caves also prevent the scientific research that could unlock their historical importance. Number 1. Cumberland Gap Military Complex. The Cumberland Gap region contains the most extensive and strategically important unexplored cave system in Tennessee. Developed during the Cold War as a classified military installation, but expanded far beyond its original scope to create an underground facility that may be the largest hidden complex in the southeastern United States. Cumberland Gap has been strategically important since Daniel Boone's time, serving as a natural passage through the Appalachian Mountains. But during the Cold War, military planners recognized that the region's natural caves could provide ideal locations for classified operations that needed to remain completely hidden from foreign surveillance. Construction began in the 1950s with the development of command and control facilities designed to survive nuclear attack, but the project expanded dramatically when engineers discovered that the natural cave systems were far more extensive than initial surveys had revealed. What started as a modest bunker complex grew into a vast underground installation that could house thousands of personnel. The facility was designed to be completely self-sufficient with independent power generation, water supplies, and air filtration systems that would allow operations to continue for months without any connection to surface infrastructure. The natural camouflage provided by the mountain environment made the installation virtually undetectable from aerial reconnaissance. What makes the Cumberland Gap complex truly remarkable is that it appears to have been expanded continuously since its original construction. Seismic monitoring and electromagnetic detection suggest that underground construction continues, indicating that the facility serves ongoing strategic purposes that extend far beyond its Cold War origins. The official position is that the Cumberland Gap area contains routine military training facilities, but the scale of underground activity and the level of security surrounding the region suggests that the hidden complex represents one of the most important classified installations in the United States. So what do these 11 unexplored cave systems tell us about Tennessee's hidden underground landscape and about the secrets that lie beneath the familiar surface world? First, there's the realization that Tennessee's underground environment is far more complex and extensive than most people imagine. These cave systems represent a shadow geography that operates parallel to the surface world, containing ecosystems, resources, and facilities that exist completely outside public knowledge. Second, there's the question of what these caves contain and why so many of them remain off-limits to exploration. The combination of strategic resources, unique biological environments, and ideal conditions for concealed operations has made Tennessee's cave systems valuable for purposes that go far beyond simple geological or recreational interest. Third, there's the recognition that the underground world represents a frontier that remains largely unexplored despite centuries of human activity in Tennessee. These caves contain discoveries waiting to be made, but the same factors that make them scientifically interesting also make them strategically important in ways that prevent public exploration. These 11 unexplored cave systems remind us that the familiar landscape of Tennessee conceals an underground world that most people never imagine exists. Beneath the rolling hills and limestone plateaus are networks of passages and chambers that could revolutionize our understanding of geology, biology, archaeology, and history. The next time you drive through Tennessee's beautiful countryside, remember that beneath your feet lies an entire world that remains as mysterious today as it was when the first Europeans arrived in the region, where discoveries of global importance might still be waiting in passages that no human has ever seen.